Should you wait until after the presidential election to see what interest rates do before you buy a home? I don't know. Let's talk about it. Hey, it's Craig back with another Mortgage Minute, and this time of year during an election year, if there's one thing that I hear just constantly is people saying, I think I'm going to wait until the election to see what happens with interest rates. And it may surprise you that there's actually very little correlation to presidential elections and mortgage interest rates. Now, I know some people watching this, and I'm probably going to get some hate mail for this, but some people watching this are right now going, "You are 100% wrong. They're so related." Here's the reality: there's two things that impact mortgage interest rates. And really, it's just one thing, but there's two things that really kind of come into play. That is the expected inflation rate and also unemployment. Now, unemployment factors into the expected inflation rate because typically speaking, if you have an economy to where it's slowing down and maybe unemployment's rising a little bit, the expectation that inflation is going to be higher down the road starts to lessen. Okay, that's probably the best way to say it. The Fed has done a phenomenal job at controlling the growth rate of inflation. Okay, which means inflation going forward. However, we are still dealing with higher prices that have been set in for the past couple of years. And, my opinion is that prices don't typically go backwards. So I would say we're going to be dealing with that going forward. So, with that said, if the economy is slowing down and if unemployment continues to rise, then you will see mortgage rates come down. Okay. At the same time, you will probably see the Fed lower Fed funds rates. Okay. And next week, we're going to talk about the Fed lowering Fed funds rates and how that impacts mortgage rates. And spoiler alert, it's not a direct impact as much as you might think. But not to get completely off topic, with presidential elections and mortgage rates, I want you to look at something. This is a chart that shows the 30-year average fixed rate. This is taken from Freddie Mac's data that goes back to 1972. Now, what you're seeing here is you're seeing the starting rate in November of the election year and the ending rate in December of the same election year. And it is crazy how minimal effect it has. So in 1972, you see the starting rate was 7.43, the ending rate was 7.44. Okay. That is not a big change. As a matter of fact, that is an increase of 0.1%. Okay. And so 1980, it goes from 14.21% interest up to 14.79. That's probably, looking on this chart, that's the biggest increase. And my guess is at that same time, probably unrelated to the election in and of itself, you probably had inflation continuing or starting to kick up. 1984, by the way, is the other time where you've probably seen the biggest differential. So if you look at this chart, for the most part, you don't see a massive swing in mortgage interest rates during election cycles. So why do people say, well, I know that presidential cycles affect mortgage interest rates? Well, I have a theory, and my theory is this: economies go in cycles, right? And so there are times to where economies are going good. There's times when economies are not going so good. And so in situations to where you got a presidential election coming up, if the economy's going really well and you have an incumbent that's continuing to run for president, running for reelection, chances are pretty good they're going to get reelected. Okay. And if the economy is not going as well, a lot of times the incumbent would not be reelected. And around that same time, you might see mortgage rates come down because, again, the biggest factor with mortgage rates is what's the expectation of inflation and how is the economy doing as a whole. Now, it's way more complicated than that. I get that. There's a whole lot that goes into mortgage interest rates. But for the most part, if the expectation of inflation is low, then for the most part, you're going to see interest rates come down. if the expectation of inflation, is going to be high, you're going to see interest rates go up. And I'm telling you, that's going to happen regardless of whether you've got a presidential election coming up. That's going to happen regardless of who gets elected, who doesn't get elected. If all the inflation data showed that the expectation of inflation was going to be that it was going to be really, really high, then I got news for you. Interest rates would rise. Here's why I don't think that's going to happen this year. And again, it's not directly related to the presidential election. But the reason I don't think that's going to happen this year is I think that we will continue to see inflation data show that the growth rate of inflation is coming down, or at least not rising. Okay. I'm not saying it's going to go dramatically lower than where it's at, but it's at least not rising right now. And I happen to think that future employment reports are probably not going to be as good as they've been in the past. And you probably will see unemployment creep up just a little bit, maybe not a ton, maybe not so much to cause panic, but yet that's going to further show that the economy is slowing down. So, again, just wanted to share that chart with you. Would love your feedback on that. And if we can help you get pre approved, don't wait for the presidential election. If you want to buy a home, let's go ahead and talk about it. Give me a call, 615 498 5626. And I appreciate you watching.